Okay, today we're going to continue looking at fractions. And this time we're going to be looking at fractions that are similar, but are actually really quite different. Okay, first of all, what I want you to take a look at when we're introducing to improper and mixed fractions is take a look at these three different fractions. What can you see? I'm going to pause now to give you a chance to take a look at these three different fractions and describe in your own words what you see. Excellent. So, some of your observations would definitely notice that this fraction, the numerator 4, and the denominator of 12, this is 4 over 12, or 4/12. Now this fraction is a type of fraction that we've not seen before. This fraction is 16 over 8. It's an actual fraction, it's not a mistake, but it looks very different because as you've noticed, this numerator, 16, is greater than the denominator, which is 8. Now this fraction over here, it's a little bit mixed up. It has a fraction, 6, which is the numerator. Pause for 1 second. And we're back. This fraction has the 6, which is the numerator, over the 7, which is the denominator, but it also has this number 2, which is not a fraction. That 2 is a whole number. This is 2 wholes. So this fraction has a whole number and a fraction of a number as well. So we can think of these fractions as being in 3 different families. We have one family of fractions. It's improper, which means that it's not quite right. It doesn't feel comfortable. It's not proper. We have a set of fractions, a family of fractions that are proper fractions, which are fractions that we recognize and we have worked with and we understand, and they look right. It makes sense. And then we have a type of fraction that is a mixed fraction. Okay? That is a fraction that's a little bit more mixed up. What I want you to take a look at now is I want you to take look at these 3 fractions and use your gut instincts. Which fraction do you think out of all of these fractions is proper, which is a mixed fraction, and which is an improper fraction? I'm going to pause now to give you a chance to link up these fractions. Which one do you think is the best fit for each family? Go. Okay, so if I know that these are the names of the fraction families, proper, improper, and mixed, I can think about what I know about fractions. And the fraction that makes the most sense there, the one fraction that I've seen before, is the fraction with the numerator, only a numerator and only a denominator, and the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So I can see that this fraction, 4/12, that's a pretty common fraction. It's just a fraction, it doesn't have a whole number, and the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So, based upon these 3 choices, it makes most sense to me that that is a proper fraction. Now, I have to decide which one of these makes the most sense. Which one is an improper fraction and which one is a mixed fraction? Well, I certainly know the word mixed much more than I know the word improper. Okay? So I can see that if this is mixed, it must mean that there is more than one part of my fraction. There has to be two different elements. And the only two fractions here that have two different parts that I can see is this fraction, because this has a whole number, 2, and a fraction of a number, 6/7. So it makes the most sense to me that this fraction must be a mixed fraction. Through process of elimination, that leaves me with the only fraction option that's left, which is 16/8. That does not look right to me, because I know, based upon all the fraction work that I've done before, is that the numerator should be smaller than the denominator. Okay? So this does not sit well with me. It looks a little odd. So I think that this must not be a proper fraction. It must be an improper fraction. So there you have it. We have our 3 fraction families: proper fractions, which we know and we've worked a lot with; mixed fractions, which we're just being introduced to today; and improper fractions, again introduced today. Okay, so that helps me to complete my activity. Can I sort these fractions? Here are a set of fractions. Can we put them into their fraction families? Proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed fractions. I'm going to pause now to give you a chance to write down these different fractions into 3 different families. Think about what we've learned. Think about what is a proper fraction, what is a mixed fraction, and what is an improper fraction, and sort these fractions into different families. I'm going to pause now to give you a chance to go ahead and do that. Off you go. And we're back. So looking at these different fractions, I'm going to start with the one that I know really, really well: proper fractions. It's simple, it's just a fraction, it does not have a whole number, and the numerator is smaller than the denominator. Well, looking at these, this one here, 38/88, that is a proper fraction. The numerator is smaller than the denominator. 27/44, simple fraction. Numerator smaller than the denominator. That has to be a proper fraction. Looking at the rest of these, no. There we go, another one. 7/10, that's a simple, straightforward fraction. Numerator smaller than the denominator. That has to be a proper fraction. So let's go with improper fractions. We know that an improper fraction has a numerator and a denominator, but the numerator is larger than the denominator. Looking at these fractions here, I can see that that can't be it. That's mixed. Wait a minute, here's a sneaky one here. 19/61. That is an actual proper fraction, so that one goes there. So out of the rest of these, the only one that has just the numerator and the denominator, and the numerator is larger than the denominator, is 82/36. So that is an improper fraction. Leaving the 2 left, which have both a whole number, in this case 10, and a fraction, 1/5, 10 and 11/18. These are mixed fractions because they have